Hello, and welcome to the Amory Speaks podcast, where I'm talking about all things introspection, spirituality, and happiness. I'm using this podcast as a platform to offer an audio version of blogs that I'm posting. I'd also like to use this space as an opportunity to offer little side notes or some afterthoughts to blogs if needed. So thank you so much for joining me and listening. And today's topic is refining trust and faith in 5D. I wrote this blog yesterday, I believe, and I just wanted to add in first a little precursor about the terminology, especially in the subject line. Maybe everyone is not quite familiar with 5D or what that means. People might think it's kind of a new age woo-woo word, or could be confused by it in general. And so I wanted to just give a little quick explanation about what I'm referring to when I'm using the terms 5D. So for anyone who is a little bit more logically based, a bit of a scientific aspect or perspective to look at this in is the precession of our planet and solar system through the universe galaxies. If you're any bit familiar with the zodiac, you will understand there's kind of this dance going on as we're moving through the universe, and we use that as a calendar to measure time and with. And maybe you've heard of like the ancient Mayans and their calendar, or any of the other ancient cultures who've predicted that 26,000 year cycle, the wobble that we see happen. And many people might be familiar with hearing, the dawning of the age of the Aquarius. And that literally means our planet is switching partners in this beautiful dance. And we are shifting now into Aquarius from Pisces. And it's very important to remember that we are like cells of Mother Earth. We are tiny, minuscule, and therefore time and speed is much faster for us at our level than Earth feels it and moves through time. And there was a lot of kind of hype and misconception, confusion around like the Mayan 2012 calendar. And you can look into this on the side on your own. I won't speak on it too long, but there's this belief that maybe they kind of, quote unquote, got it wrong in the timing, and that maybe it was longer than they had expected in 2020. It was the real, quote unquote, start of this new calendar, a new reset. But it could just be that time is spread out so much longer that these decades, they just seem like a blink of the eye to her, because she's just so much larger than us. It's kind of hard to comprehend as a human. But that transition, that moving, the switching of partners, it has an energetic component to it. And it will cause influences and changes. And as we can see, there are many changes going on in the world. So that is kind of what 5D is representing, this shift, this change that we are logically and logistically moving through. But it also has to do with sort of a spiritual soul evolution and raising our vibration and frequency from 3 and 4 and 5D densities, becoming lighter, more positively polarized beings on Mother Earth, because Mother Earth is doing that work at the same time. So that's kind of what Ascension is speaking about. And when I'm saying redefining trust and faith, or refining, excuse me, but it is redefining as well. It's just the intricacies of how can we upgrade and instill a more deeper, connected, truer definition of trust and faith. And so this blog was really an attempt of me to explore these concepts more thoroughly, to imagine and explain how I see the progression and evolution of trust and faith into 5D and higher, what that could look like and what it will take for us, and the work involved. And that's what this blog is mostly about. I'm going to get started on reading it now. I hope you enjoy listening as much as I enjoy writing it. And if it sparks any kind of curiosity, thoughts, or questions, I'd love responses and replies, even just your own personal perspective. It's so wonderful to share and communicate these different concepts with other people, because that really gives us a chance to reflect our own ideas back and sort of refine them as well. So refining is beautiful, catalytic work that life is really all about. So on that, I will begin reading Refining Trust and Faith. These are two really strong words, which mean a whole lot of different things, depending on who you ask. There's layers and angles to these words. The words themselves are concepts, really, because they embody so much. I really love language and writing because words are so fluid and migratory. It's the act of writing something down that solidifies it. It makes it permanent, but simultaneously up for debate or scrutiny by anyone who should ever choose to read it. We consciously, carefully choose what we write down. Many of us write only to rewrite and write again in a different way, right? As a quick side note, it's like when we are writing something down, we're holding that space that possibly someone might read it later. And so that makes us construct our best version of whatever we're trying to promote, right? Because we want it to be clear and we want the person who's following to read it to really have no misconceptions, or to not be able to too loosely interpret what we're trying to write down, because the act of writing in itself is refining something, an idea, right? To pass on. Then we have the spoken word, which holds more power in the present moment than its written counterpart. However, it cannot stand that test of time or opinion in the same way a piece of paper can be tucked away and preserved in its original form. It's easy to see how meanings and intent become muddled throughout history. That, along with the deliberate destruction or removal of certain texts and words, of course, but I will not get into all that now, for this topic is not about the distortions of words, but about the freeing of them. Almost simple terms like trust and faith hold complicated definitions and contain within themselves varying, complex ideologies and systems of thought, right? Yet we rarely take this knowing and apply it into our social interactions and relationships. Why is that, right? People in the same families can even have different ideas of what trust and faith mean to them, but we never talk about it. We just sort of glaze it over and assume that whoever we're talking to should just get our initial wording the exact way we've intended because they quote unquote know us. It's kind of ridiculous when you look at it in such a black and white way, right? But it is so easy to assume and presume that these people that we, just because we spend daily interactions with them, that they really know the depths of our heart and what's in our mind. But, the truth and honesty is they don't. And to add salt to the wound, when we do bring up topics like trust and faith specifically, things tend to get emotional straight away. Just because so many of us, these are touchy topics, right? They have past hurts still attached to them, and they are very important, and a lot of people hold them very tightly. So they're scared of scrutiny or examination. Most people link heavily into community or external things when trust or faith is involved. Because who are we trusting, or what do we have faith in, right? But these words, really, these truths are individual and personal. They involve no one but ourselves and source creation, God, Mother Earth, however you see that infinite connection. It's only between you and that connection. Yet, we are told trust must be earned, to fear giving our trust away because another person might break it, and that will hurt our feelings. We will have been deceived and wronged, and that is bad. We see faith as a promise held between people and believing that that person is going to stay true to their word. We have faith in people based on our past ability to trust effectively. In all honesty, I don't look at it this way anymore. I'm trying my best not to, right? Actively doing the work each day to redirect my autopiloted vision. Because we've all been programmed to the basic mind fuckery of this world, to some degree at least, right? And that trust program is a major artery of their system. So it's no surprise we see versions of it across time and cultures. It's everywhere. It affects us all. And I'm of the opinion that we each must learn to break free from their definitions of faith and trust and find our own truest explanation. Then embody it as often and as best as you can. That is the most effective way to manage your frequency and uplift your soul. So no lower vibrations can bring you down. They will be forced to raise theirs or dissipate. This is why you're here. This is why we're all here. To recognize the big picture and break free from the cages they've constructed around you, falsely claiming they're real. It's ridiculous. This is a side note, but it is ridiculous the house of cards they have constructed so haphazardly, with absolutely no care or artisan craftsmanship involved. And then they just tell us that it's of the best effort. It's such lies. And if I've said, anyways, back to the point. If I've said it once, I've said it 1,000 times. This type of work is hard. It's hard work. I didn't just have a wonderful childhood where nothing bad ever happened. And so I never learned not to trust people. Oh, no. Quite the opposite. I have been tested over and over my entire life. Because I'm one of those I have to learn the hard way types, the lessons had to become blatant and overwhelming in order for me to actually acknowledge it. I built up high walls and compartmentalized my traumas, feelings, my personalities. I disconnected my spirit from the chaos as much as I could in order to keep a few tiny pieces somewhere safe. I did years of crisis control, covering up and bypassing truths. Over time, I realized the walls were only band-aids and could never bring me actual happiness or peace. I finally saw the protection for what it really was, a prison, and I wanted out. I could see the beautiful natural landscapes outside. I just had no idea how to even find my way through all the traps, the locks, the mazes I had set up. You set these things up thinking of only who's trying to break in, who might be following you. You never stop to question how you will get out if you want to. It took years, but looking back now, it seems to all have happened so perfectly. In the end, it was all laid out by me, for me. Only trust and faith in myself, my higher purpose, and my connection to that big picture could lead me out. This is the true purpose of faith and trust. They're internal forces which should empower, enlighten, and guide us while we navigate our choices and catalysts. Trust should not be seen as a material, precious object we hand out carefully with shaking hands, all the while praying and hoping the other doesn't drop it or mistreat it. This conception sets us all up for failure. It creates what I like to call a liar's loop. That's a template or structure which contains a major flaw or hole in it, which is purposely ignored, denied, or covered up in order to avoid it and keep that loop, that flawed idea path or invented stable state going and stable. This is, of course, at the expense or in direct contradiction to the entire big picture, which is what makes it a lie, a liar's loop. You have to continually ignore, disassociate, use cognitive dissonance to trick yourself into not seeing the off-ramp on the loop. When we actually listen to and follow their inverted trust systems, we are consenting to that lie, right? We are chaining ourselves to their false narrative. We are choosing to run in their loop. We're also denying ourselves the freedom and peace of mind that comes with the true state of living in the big picture. Remember, love, abundance, and trust are not frequencies that are conductive in a heavy, negatively polarized atmosphere, which is exactly what the constructors of the system need to resonate within. And so they are going to try their very hardest to maintain that negative, heavy atmosphere. But again, if you can maintain a higher vibration from within yourself, then those lower ones will fall away. Your faith in this mechanism can be tested and proven if you should so choose to try it out in your life. All you have to do is ask for signs and then put the effort in to raise your vibration as much as you can each day. Spirit works through higher vibrations. Our higher self is higher vibration. And so it's working to funnel its way down. If you are like an antenna on a channel of a radio, you have to tune yourself as best as you can out of the static into their station to pick up the message, right? Your path, if you choose so to do the tuning and to seek that message in the static, your path will appear step by step. Only as long as you hold that trust and faith that each next step will be revealed at the perfect time. That perfect time is right before you step down, never before. It's like an invisible ladder. The next rung will only materialize and solidify right as your hand closes around it. Never before. You must envision or imagine the ladder with all its rungs intact, and then you climb. And as you put in the work in combination with the idea and faith in the idea, the ladder is brought into 3D. Trust and faith are the inner workings of the law of attraction. But there's lots of strings and catches for you to get wrapped up in while you climb, or before you can even build a ladder, really, actually. So people get the idea that it doesn't work, right? They get this idea that it's shallow and that it's so superficial, because they're only seeing their ladder doesn't work. Their ladder doesn't take them anywhere, right? Meanwhile, all these other people up on the roof, their ladder works perfectly. But it's because the misconception that people get this idea that it's easy and simple, but they forget all the distractions, the tie-ups, the fact that it takes your actual own inner faith in the ladder to build the ladder. And all these weights and distractions, they just hold you back from even being able to build your ladder. Now, on the topic of trust specifically, I wanted to highlight this newer perspective I've been shown and I've been working to incorporate in my own daily life for some time now. I hope that it might help others find their own security within their own faith and trust. So I'm going to give just a brief explanation of my own standing of how I handle faith and trust when dealing with others specifically. So here's a few things that I try to live by. I do not give out trust and naivety with hopes or strings attached. I do not hold fragile faith. My trust in others is as strong as the trust I have for myself. I try to always remember that I give out my trust freely and honestly, because that is my nature. I am trustworthy, honest, and of the opinion that the highest good is seeking each one of us at our own speed, and therefore there is never a reason to not have faith or to fear decisions others might make. I treat others as I want to be treated, and therefore I assume others are on the same page as me and will respond accordingly. I want to be trusted and honored. Therefore, I offer trust and faith out to the universe, to others. As soon as I recognize I've been constructing expectations onto someone else, I actively work to release those restrictions and conditions by having internal conversations with my higher self. My higher connection shines light onto whatever shadowed personality is feeling that friction, and we confront it together, right? I have internal conversations with that shadowed, frictioned piece to say, like, what's going on here? Why are you holding out expectations on someone to act in a way that you feel is right? Do you think you know better than the higher plan? Right? Because alchemy is for real. Though they've purposely exaggerated it, they promote this overly magical definition to dilute the true meaning, which is energy manipulation or conversion. I work through these discomforts. I realign my natural homeostasis of open trust and faith, because I know truly that the highest good seeks us all. When you offer out trust without question, it opens up your flow state. You align more harmoniously within the ether. Plus, it feels great, right? What's better than feeling good in the moment? In the moment, you never worry about what others are doing or saying. You never worry about others at all, because there's faith and trust that all is for your highest good out there, as well as theirs. People get what they need, hard lessons included. It's never your place to worry, interfere, or shield others from their lessons and karma. Your journey is only about you. Viewing trust as something handed out with conditions and regulations is unfair, and it bogs down the flow of the present moment, which in turn creates uncomfortable ripples or bumps in the future for you. It's much easier to ensure a smoother route in the future by releasing or reducing these infringing disruptions we cast out into the present moment. Now, you may be asking, well, what about when others break that trust, lie to you, push your boundaries, or hurt your feelings? For that kind of questioning, the initial thing you need to do is change your perspective, because your locus of control, your focus of attention, right, is outside of you. It is looking for the solution outside of you. You're approaching this like a social problem. You've chosen to see your trust and faith as material and limited, therefore rare, expensive, priceless, aka obtainable, right? This sets a tone for scarcity, and aggressive management spawns from scarcity because you fear misuse and rapid depletion of this special natural resource. You fear lack. You fear that without state, the ultimate disparity, death. Yes, it is that dramatic because you've made it so. If you instead choose to admit trust because you're overflowing with unconditional faith and love, well, that's a horse of a different color. No other can taint or affect your faith if you know it wells up from inside of you and radiates out into the ether in connection with it and in extension of the one infinite creator inside of you. From this standing, when someone breaks that trust you've given them, whether it's a friend talking behind your back or a partner failing to follow through with their end of an agreement, you're able to stop and remember that their choices do not reflect you, your faith, or the worth of your trust in your own faith. You are not disgraced or diminished in any way. That person's actions represent their own trust and faith in themselves and in their worth. It truly has nothing to do with you at all. You have not given away anything material, so there's nothing broken that needs to be fixed or replaced by them. You yourself are honestly unaffected directly by their decision. The other person has chosen disloyalty, betrayal, abuse, some other negative action, and yes, that does reflect their state in the present moment. And there are energetic and emotional repercussions for those actions in their world. However, these emotions and responses are separate from your own faith and trust. They are not tied to or dependent on others. Your faith is out there in the ether, still intact, strong, radiating, and holding your truth. Faith is not conditional. In fact, conditions and regulations are the exact opposite of what is needed for faith. Faith requires trust in the unknown, which means you must admit you're not in control. This is why I'm saying it's hard work. It's very hard work because so subtly, from the very start, so many of us are locked into this control mindset. But it's important to remember when someone else makes bad choices or breaks a promise, it hurts you in some way. Yes, you have emotions like disappointment or anger to deal with as a result. Those lower vibes, they need to be alchemized in your best way. But again, this is your work that needs to be done with you. It's not actually the broken trust or the other person's actions, right? Moving through catalysts is what life is all about. So envisioning a life free of disruptions from others is a bad habit to get into. You set up yourself and everyone around you for failure when you hold onto a perspective like this. Plus, you ensure a future full of aggravation and frustration, since it's inevitable that problems will erupt and you're choosing to have this automatically negative and defensive stance in regard to problems. There's no surprise that you're going to be upset and you're going to feel negative every day. And holding a resonance like that for extended periods of time also creates fertile ground for disease in your body. So please beware, be conscious, do the alchemy work to move and free up these harder emotions. Because they sit, they store and stagnate, and they create disease. It's also very important that you don't beat up your intuition with things like you should have known better or you should have never trusted that person. Because holding a positive intention for others is healthy. It creates happiness and ease. Demolishing your intuition and faith will only handicap you in the future and do nothing at all to the person you believe you're punishing by relinquishing your trust. You're crippling your own faith in hopes of teaching that other person a lesson that's not even yours to teach, right? Have faith that the universe and its energetic laws hold that person's ultimate purpose just like it holds yours, right? Worrying about holding others accountable for their choices is a giant trap, a liar's loop, another one, which will never end and will keep you forever seeking retribution, revenge, or justice. Always in the eyes of others, though. It will never come. You will have wasted your life here in vain, chasing the past. Instead, release the white knuckle grip. Have faith in your big picture and live freely in the present moment. For me, these are hard lessons because I grew up with unhealthy boundary examples and lots of codependency issues. I suffered through many abuses and allowed myself to be beaten down by them. The victim mindset is so prevalent today, so I know there are many who can use this knowledge. However, only those with ears to hear and a heart ready to open will be willing to accept the responsibility that comes with self-love, trust, and faith. You have to have the courage to say, yes, I chose this path, as did each and every other soul here. What now? How do I make the best of it? Right? If ever I am spiraling off into worries or assumptions about others, I draw my mind back into my heart center, take a deep breath, and remember that we each have a purpose. But it's not my business whose purpose is what or why or whether they fulfill it or not. This is where faith comes in. Release it to the ether, the universe, Mother Earth, Source, God, whatever resonates. Let it go. This is that control mechanism at work. It's super hard work. Believe me, I do it every day. I know. But again, it's about remembering the faith you have is never in anything outside of you. It's held within your being and energy. It radiates out through the ether because it's made up of source consciousness, love light, God's essence, whatever you like to see it as. So when you have faith in something or you bestow faith onto another, it's ultimately your energy reflecting back out in the ether and shining your own original faith in yourself, in God's source, in your connection and trust to the infinite creator, which holds that resonance of faith out there. If you build up your connection with source within yourself and have full confidence in your own capabilities and honor, then and only then can you radiate that trust and faith out. Once you gain this understanding of where your energy, love, faith, and trust really come from, it's pretty easy to see and avoid the major pitfalls created by the inverted templates used by the shadow, or society, the archons, the controllers, the man, whatever you choose to call it, the catalysts, right? Their exterior house of mirrors, with its twists and turns, ensure we are never safe enough to look inwards, to alchemize the energy and emotions that maintain our disharmony. They tell us that we should hand out trust like a limited resource. That classic scarcity blood. Don't worry, the climate change one's coming, so keep your eyes open. Then the truth is even further distorted because we're made to feel responsible for whatever the other does with that limited resource after we've handed it over to them. It does set the stage nicely, though, for encouraging negatively polarized roles like the micromanager, that savior complexes, and the victim mentality, right? Inside their funhouse world, this disharmonious melody is stuck on repeat, volume at full blast. This further drives us away from hearing our higher selves. But please, don't get distracted. The audio controls are inside of you. If you learn to quiet your mind through meditation, you will unlock the security code to their back room. Once you gain access to that, you can sneak right in there, shut off their loudspeaker, turn off the lights that reflect all the confusion and the misdirection they shine and bing off of at every angle of their house of mirrors. And when you shut it down, you actually stand a chance to break out into the real world. Once you break out into the real world, you can more easily reside in a place where trust radiates out. And when disruptions do enter your field, you can immediately recognize them and seek to understand and integrate. You will never again see broken trust as an immediate attack on your own personal faith or worthiness. When another does something which is unexpected or surprising to us in the organic world, we are able to first assess our own inner alchemy, to work through our disruptions and distortions. And then we can align with that other person, speak our minds about our feelings, and work, and then seek to help them find and identify what's caused them to choose that thing which, quote unquote, broke trust or caused a disruption. This is totally different than attacking or damning a person for breaking our trust and insisting that they work forever to regain it. There is no place in the real world for assigning trustworthiness levels on others. This is a false sense of security and inverted knowledge thrust upon the masses to confuse them and lead them into servitude. If you believe your trust and faith is dependent on or weighed against that of others, then you're diluting your own heart center and soul connection. We each have an infinite supply of faith, trust, and love. You just need to tap into it and let it flow. When we each work with others in an open and trusting way like this, especially in the face of adversity or controversy, we show and teach others that faith is unconditional. We confirm we are on the same team, working through an issue or problem together, not criticizing or condemning them for destroying some imaginary, irreplaceable resource. This ensures that in the future, we will be approached with respect and kindness when dealing with that person, because they know we have their best intentions in our hearts, and also that our trust is founded in our own secure faith and therefore not conditional on their behavior or their choices. It frees people up to be themselves, to speak how they feel, and to confront catalysts or problems with honesty and patience instead of cover-ups to rush through and make the other person, quote unquote, happy again. I see this as an escape from their not so fun house, right? This is a metaphor for that ascension that I was talking about at the very beginning, the ascension of Earth, the soul evolution of humanity, and the growth of things through densities and dimensions. We are moving from 3D to 4D stability and into a 4D, 5D spectrum. And with it, those rough 3D structures must fall away, just like lower frequencies dissipate if they cannot pick up and resonate with stronger, higher ones. With that, each of us must make the choice and do the work to ascend and raise our vibrations if we want to move forward. You're also free to stagnate and sink, because the 3D is obviously remaining in its own space, time, place, but not here in this reality and time. The planet has a plan of its own and a path of its own too. So much like a body which has chosen to eat healthy, Earth systems are clearing, changing, they're realigning, and you, as a cell within it, must either do your job to detox, clear, and listen to the changes happening and then adapt yourself, or you will be shed as a body disposes of toxins. It is my sincere hope that uncovering this true state of unconditional faith and love will unlock pathways to higher understandings and help us transmute painful disruptions, these catalysts, more effectively in the future. I have witnessed changes in my own small world, and I feel an upgrade in my daily life every day. And that's all the proof I need. I hope you can find your own new homeostasis as well. If you're struggling, having hang-ups, if you have had a major breakthrough even, leave a reply below. I'd love to hear how others are working through these tough topics. And I'd just like to say that at the end here, thank you so much if you've listened to this audio of my blog. I appreciate it so much. And I truly hope to open up more free conversations about what this information means and how it might impact your world. So thank you. Have a blessed day and speak to you next time.